Welcome to my channel, The Golden Stitch. My name is Alejandra and I'm a Mexican living in Scotland. And today I'm sharing with you my experience at the yarn festival, the Woolly Good Gathering in Edinburgh. I hope you're doing well. If you've never been to my channel before, here I like documenting my journey as a beginner knitter, and I like sharing videos about my experience knitting, patterns that I find inspiring, a regular knitting podcast on updates about my whips and acquisitions. But today we have a special video about my experience at the Woolly Good Gathering in Edinburgh. So starting with what I'm wearing today, which is also what I wore to the festival, it is my Salty Day sweater by Veronica Lindberg, also known as Kutovakika. It is just off the needles and off the blocking stage. I was actually worried that it was not gonna dry in time for the festival, but thankfully it was fully dried by Friday. So I was super happy to be able to wear it for the first time. And I have a lot of thoughts about this sweater, so I'm not gonna go over it during this video, but stay tuned for my upcoming podcast and I will give you all the details. And just to mention one quick one, the yarn I use for this is Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino in the colorway Rust. If you've never heard about the Woolly Good Gathering before, it is a yarn festival in Edinburgh. It is the third year running. It started running in 2024. And this year they moved venues. They did it at the Senior Academy in Edinburgh, which is a beautiful venue. And I'm not sure what the venue was the 2 years before, but if I find information online, I'm gonna pop it up. So this yarn festival is, as the name suggests, mainly focused on yarn and fibers. And they also have like a smaller selection of vendors of different crafts, but it is directed to people that are knitters, crocheters, or just in general fiber artists that find interested in yarn and other similar crafts. The way the festival is set up is mainly a marketplace for yarn and other similar craft materials for knitters, crocheters, and fiber lovers. And they also have food, and they also offer workshops and interesting talks directed to knitters and crocheters, mainly, and fiber lovers. So this is my very first time attending at this festival. Before this, I only attended to one more yarn festival, which was in Glasgow. The Glasgow one, I believe is called the Glasgow School of Yarn. It's hosted by them. And compared to that one, this one was bigger in size and it had a lot more vendors and a lot more variety. So because I had the experience of the previous yarn festival, if you've never been to a yarn festival before, it can be really overwhelming. I am used to buying my yarn online or sometimes going to small crafts shops that are not very crowded. But unlike that, when you go to a yarn festival, at least in my two experiences, it is very crowded and it can be really overwhelming. So because of my previous experience and what I assumed it would be similar in this case, I decided to be prepared and have a list of like a shopping list, or at least some categories that I would like to focus on, so that I didn't get too overwhelmed by all the choices and then having people around me and not being able to decide. And I think that was a good idea, but later on I'll tell you if I succeeded or not on my list. So what I did basically is I just brought a small paper with me. On Friday before the festival, I forgot to mention the festival ran for 2 days. It was Friday and Saturday. I only signed up for the Saturday one. I didn't go on Friday. On Friday, they were also offering a social event. I would have loved to go to that event, but the actual marketplace and the festival was running during the day and I was working, so I didn't want to ask for a day off to attend the festival. So I decided to just buy a ticket for the Saturday. And I also attended to one workshop and one of the talks, which I will cover later on. So for my shopping list, on Friday, I decided to put these together, and I was focusing on different categories and things that I wanted to look for. I didn't necessarily was expecting to buy everything here, but at least so I could have an idea, so that when I was walking around the marketplace, I could focus on those categories and hopefully not get too overwhelmed. And I think it worked pretty well for that purpose. So my first category was, I was looking for mossy matcha green yarns. I keep seeing sweaters in this type of color all over social media, and I've been thinking about having one. I've never seen a sweater like that in a shop, in a regular shop, and I always think it's a very interesting color. And actually, Rebecca Claw, which is the Crea Bea, that gave one of the workshops, was wearing a sweater in this color, and it looks so beautiful. And I don't know, I've been obsessed with that color, and I've been thinking about buying some yarn. So that was my first category. And the second category, it was to buy a sweater's quantity. The previous yarn festival I attended, I only bought one skein of like each color. It was mostly variegated yarn. It was beautiful, but I find myself, I don't know what to do with them anymore. So, and I accumulated a bunch of those. And sometimes when I go to smaller yarn shops that are local to the places I go visit, I try to buy one of these skeins, and then I have a lot of them, and I have a big queue of projects that I'm planning to do with them. So for this festival, I didn't want to buy any variegated yarn or like any one or two skeins of that. I wanted to buy more like a sweater's quantity. And then I also was looking for a summer fiber for a tee that I want to do for this summer. I was looking mostly for non-superwash fibers. I have worked with superwash fibers before, and they're okay. They're not my favorite because I only recently learned this, but they have a lot more elasticity, a lot more give, and they stretch a lot after washes, and I didn't like what it did to the garments. It worked well I have a Sophie scarf and variegated yarn that is superwash that worked very well. But I just for a sweater, I was looking for non-superwash fibers. I was also looking for yarn in cones. I put myself one or two fun skeins for like smaller projects. And then I was also looking for buttons for my Whitmore cardigan that I already have the yarn for. So I brought my little swatch. I can go get it. My little swatch for buttons for that sweater, and my budget was of £250. I know it sounds like a lot, but if you've never been to yarn festival before, they can be quite expensive. Every hank or skein can be around £25. So £250 sounds like a lot, but I was comfortable spending that amount, especially since I had in mind that I wanted to buy a sweater's quantity. So I didn't want to spend more than that. And what I did for that is I brought cash. So I usually never use cash, but it was easier to manage my budget if I had the cash with me. And I think that part worked pretty well. And also last but not least, I was looking for either like a honey, amber, yellowish brown color. I know it sounds a little bit contradictory, but I have some mohair from knitting from Olive, and I've been trying to find merino or fingering weight yarn to hold with, and I brought it with me so I could find like a fiber to pair it with. So this was my shopping list, and let me tell you how well I did. So overall, my experience at the festival was super positive, but there were a couple of hiccups on the way, and I will also go over them during this video. So first of all, my first hiccup of the day was when I discovered that they were doing some works in the rails of the train that I was planning to take. And just for some context, I live about an hour away from Edinburgh, and I don't have a direct train that goes from here. Usually my husband drives me to a town that is about 15 minutes away from here to be able to take the train to downtown Edinburgh. But unfortunately, that train was not running on Saturday, which meant that he had to drive me a little bit further away. And that also meant that it kind of extended my travel time quite considerably. It was also a rainy day, and I wasn't that prepared for it because it was meant to be, when I was checking the weather, it was meant to be sunny, but if you know anything about the weather in the UK, it's quite unpredictable, so I should have known better and be better prepared for that. But it was a little bit chaotic in the morning. I bought a ticket that was for the regular marketplace entrance, which covered from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I think I left the house about 9 a.m., if I remember correctly. So it took a couple of hours to arrive, and I was late. I wanted to be there around 11, but I ended up being there around 11:30. So that was the first hiccup of the day. Once I arrived on the train in downtown Edinburgh, I was looking for the bus or a different means of transportation to get to the senior academy, but it was raining and I was starting to get stressed that I was gonna be late. So I decided to take a taxi, which was way faster than trying to take one of the buses. So I was there about 11:30. It wasn't late, but once I go over all the activities that I did during the day, I ended up missing that half an hour that could have been very useful for my particular case. So once I arrived to the senior academy, it was super nice. They welcomed me, they gave me a wristband, and they scanned my QR code for the ticket. For this festival, you definitely need to buy tickets in advance. A lot of it was sold out. I don't know if the marketplace was still available a few days before, but the workshops and the talks were pretty much all sold out months before the festival. So if you're planning to go to either this festival next year or any other yarn festivals that are popular, I highly recommend you check with time, you plan in advance. And if you're interested in taking any of the workshops or the talks, also keep an eye on their social media platforms to book tickets as soon as possible because they can get sold out pretty quickly. So once I arrived there, they let us go through they call it the main hall, which was a lovely, I will pop a little video snapshots of what I have. I was trying to film a lot during the event, but it was very busy and I also feel awkward. I'm still not great at vlogging. I've been trying and I think I tried to mentally prepare myself, but once I arrive in the place, I find very intimidated and I feel like kind of an imposter trying to film content because I don't feel like a content creator, even though I'm putting my videos out there, but I'm still trying to learn how to record videos and how to do vlogging. So I didn't feel very comfortable recording myself or like talking to the camera or even interviewing some of the vendors. But I'll pop videos there of whatever I was able to take. So when I first arrived to the main hall, there was like a dining area with lots of tables, and there was like a coffee, they weren't selling coffee, but pastries. They were selling donuts and little pastries station. And what was very surprising for me is they hired a band that was playing a little bit like a folk or traditional Scottish music. There was some sort of harp or string instrument playing, and then a person with can't remember if it was like drums. I'll pop a video there so you can see. And it was lovely. It was really beautiful. You really felt like the atmosphere was all set up for people to enjoy. So I wish I had more time to go back there, but the day went by so fast that was my only opportunity I had to hear the band and be at that place. So when I first arrived, I had a donut, which was very needed because I didn't have breakfast before. And then I headed to the marketplace. It was a little bit confusing to find the marketplace because it was all spread across different halls. They gave us this little pamphlet which had all the information about the vendors, and it also had a floor plan here about the, I'll pop a picture, close-up pictures of the event. So all the halls were a little bit spread across, and there weren't a lot of signs, or at least I couldn't see, they weren't easy to find the signs to navigate. And I don't think I was the only one, because I saw lots of people looking lost and trying to find someone to ask where the main marketplace were being set. And as I found out later, there were actually lots of halls with marketplaces or lots of little vendor areas. So yeah, that part was a little bit confusing, but the people that organized the event were super helpful. They were so nice. They were always trying to provide help for people and be available. So that was really nice. And this little handout was super useful. It became essential to have it with me during the whole day. It had all the vendors that were placed in each one of the halls, so it was super useful to have it. Then after that, the very first vendor place that I saw had the most beautiful yarn, and I actually came back to it at the end. But because I had in mind a certain budget, I didn't want to spend it all at the beginning. So I made the mistake of saying like, oh, I'll come back later once I decide if I don't see anything else I'm interested in. And I really, really regretted it. So another lesson I learned is if I see something I like, I should really just buy it as soon as possible, even though I might run out my budget quicker. But at least that was my experience from this time. Maybe if a different time would be a different experience, but at least that was my experience. And then I walk around the first little vendors area. In that first area of the vendors, I actually saw one of the finalists of the Game of Wool, which is a British reality show. I don't know if you've seen it, but she was one of the finalists. Her name is Lydia, and she has a yarn company, or a yarn business. And she was there, and I talked to her about the show. She was super nice, super approachable, and she even agreed to take a picture with me, and I was really thankful for it. And Elsa was also there. She was just roaming around. She was my favorite in the show. She was the Scottish competitor, which was also a finalist. And I also took a picture with her. And I had a chance to talk, and she's just as sweet in person as she seems on TV. So it was super nice, and it was a great experience to meet them in person and just see them there surrounded by other knitters. It was super nice. I also spotted a couple of content creators that I recognized from YouTube, which was really cool. And they seem a lot more comfortable than me recording. So maybe one day I'll learn and I'll be comfortable recording around other people. But it was really, really cool to see. But I also didn't want to approach too many of them because I felt intimidated. Oh yeah, I should mention I went by myself. So I always feel a little bit out of place because I don't have anyone to talk to. I try to talk to strangers all the time. And everyone I have encountered, they're super nice. But obviously they're not like a friend that I take with me. So it's always a little bit more challenging. So if you've ever wondered if you need a partner to go to any of these events, you really don't. You can see a lot of people go by themselves. So don't feel intimidated by that. And there's lots of people of all sorts of levels. There's not only experts in knitting, although you can see a lot of people who have a lot more experience than others. But you can see all sorts of people, and it's great. There's great diversity. So it's really, really nice. And then after that, I was really hungry, and I hadn't eaten my donut that I bought. So I got a coffee, and I went to a bench to sit outside, and I was eating my donut and talking to a lovely lady that was next to me who was from Pennsylvania, and we had a little chat. And then I headed to the second marketplace, which also had lovely vendors and yarn. But I didn't want to start making any purchases until I saw everything. But that was a little bit of a mistake. I first wanted to see everything and then go to a second turn and then start buying the yarn I wanted. But I really ran out of time, and I should have just bought the yarn that I liked when I saw it. But then after that, I went to the workshop that I signed up, which was beginner's workshop for designing your own hat. And it was by none other than the Crea Bea, Rebecca Claw, which is a knitter designer based in Edinburgh. She's very popular on Ravelry. You probably encounter a few of her patterns. And she was such a lovely person to meet. She had great tips to start designing your own garments, and it was a really fun workshop. I met lots of lovely people, and I would highly recommend you do at least one workshop or a talk of your preference. So when you're going to a yarn festival, just check the calendar and try to sign up for one of them. So the workshop lasted 2 hours, and then right after that, I had to run to the talk that I signed up for, which was a talk on tips to photograph your needs. That one, for me, it wasn't as useful just because I'm not an expert photographer by any means, but I know the basics on how to handle a camera, and I grew up during the Instagram era, so I feel like I know the basics on how to frame your objective or your the thing you want to photograph. And background, I don't take the most aesthetically pleasing pictures, but I know the basics. And I found for that talk, I didn't really get too much from it. So that one was a little bit of a regret on my side, but it was probably really good for people who have zero experience photographing or who are not very comfortable using a phone to take photographs. It was just not for me, and I felt like in that hour I lost time that I would have used better in the marketplace, trying to finish seeing all the vendors. So yeah, after that I just had 45 minutes left until 5 o'clock, so it was 4:15, and still I hadn't eaten anything except that donut. So that was also bad part on my side of planning. So yeah, after the talk, I had to really rush in those last 45 minutes to finish seeing the rest of the vendors in the other halls. And in one of the last halls I went to see, there was actually the Gilpin, I don't know if it's pronounced like that, I apologize, and Sheila, which were the two judges from also the Game of Wool. So it was super nice. They were selling their book and a few other supplies that, because I was rushing so much, I don't even remember what it was. I think it was yarn and tote bags, if I remember correctly. I'll have a look, and if I can remember, I'll pop a picture there. And I took a picture with them, and I bought their book, and I got it signed. So that part was super exciting. So yeah, I finished rushing through all the venues, and in the end, it was quite hectic, and I was exhausted and also really hungry because I only had a donut all day. So really the bottom line here is that I didn't plan my day as I was meant to. If I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't sign for the talk, the second talk that I did, the photography one. And I would still have signed up for the workshop, but that extra hour would have allowed me to eat something and have a little bit more time at the marketplace. So for next year, probably I will be more selective with the talks and the workshops I sign up for, and I will also see if I can maybe go to both days, or at least arrive right on time, or try to organize my time better, because I really felt like the day flew by. I was exhausted and hungry by the end. So yeah, I really think I have I have to plan better the next time. But to the exciting part of the video, I want to share with you the beautiful haul of the things I bought. So going back to my list, let's see how well I did for the things I wanted to get. So the first thing I wanted to get is the moss matcha green. I saw lots of beautiful mossy green yarn, but a lot of it was superwash, and I was looking for non-superwash for a sweater's quantity. So my favorite one was from this place called Your Lair. I actually don't know how it's pronounced, but I will pop the name in there and also in the description box below. But my favorite one was this color, which was a combination of 50% yak and 50% silk. This, more than a mossy green, is actually like an olivey. I would describe it more like an olivey green with a little bit of like a gold color. And this was actually the my favorite color that I saw in all the festival. And when I first saw it, they were maybe like 6 or 7 skeins. And I was like, oh, there's loads, so I will be able to get some. And then at the end, this was the only hank left. So yeah, I was very sad and disappointed, but I still got it because I think it's beautiful. But in the same shop, they had this other yarn that is more like a chartreuse, like a little bit more yellowy. But I think it's within the mossy green family that I was looking for. And this is a 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere, and it's incredibly soft. They're both incredibly soft. And they have amazing, especially this one, amazing drape, as you can see. So I can imagine the result will be a super beautiful drapey sweater. But also for this one, I was rushing to get through all the stalls, and they only had 4 hanks left. And I was like, oh yeah, perfect, the sweater's quantity, it will be perfect for the sweater. And I don't know what I was thinking because I wasn't in my right mind. I was rushing through everything. But actually after that, when I realized it was only 225 meters per skein or per hank, I realized there's only 900 meters in total, which is a little bit short for a sweater. So I'm gonna really struggle to find a pattern for that. I might have to end up doing a vest. Although I saw that the sweater that Rebecca Claw was wearing at the workshop, I'm gonna pop the name of the pattern there because I don't remember the name. She was wearing a design of herself in a beautiful also mossy green color, with some like a round yoke pattern, a cable pattern. It was super beautiful. That one uses around 950 meters, if I remember correctly, for my size. So I'm a little bit short, but maybe if I crop a little bit the sleeves or if I make it more cropped, I might just be able to make it. So I might still try to do that one, or if not, do it short sleeve, perhaps. So yeah, that's the plans for these. I'm a little bit sad that I wasn't able to get a full sweater's quantity. It would have been great if I had bought 5 skeins. They only had 4 left of this color. So anyways, even if I had remembered to check the quantity properly, I don't think they would have had the extra skein. I can always also try to contact the vendor to see if they have anything left in stock. And in fact, I'm gonna try to check their website. At the moment, it does say that they haven't updated any of the quantities because of the Woolly Good gathering. But once they come back and finish all their admin work, I assume, they say they will update the website. So I'm gonna go back and have a look. And I'm also planning to keep an eye on that website because I really, really loved all the yarns that they were having. I thought the blends were super interesting. It's really luxury yarn, and they were super soft and unique and non-superwash, which is what I was looking for. So it's great, and a new yarn brand that I discovered that I'm really excited to try. And then my second favorite vendor was Sakami. I have heard about this brand from other YouTubers that went to Unraveled in London, and I heard great things about it. But when I went to touch the yarn, it was really, truly amazing. So this is baby suri alpaca, 75% and 25% silk. This is the undyed one, and I bought 2 skeins, one skein of the suri alpaca and one of the 70% alpaca, 20% silk, and 10% cashmere of the undyed color, or not without any dye, to do a hat perhaps. So I think hopefully this will be enough. And as you can see, this one is already falling apart because it's just so soft that it's hard to keep the shape of it. But super excited to try this one. I also didn't know that they are based in Edinburgh. So another brand that to look for, and I'm excited to know that they're local, or kind of local to me. So super happy. And in that shop, and I also bought a little pin that says "Good yarn, good karma." It's super cute. I also collect pins, so I wanted one that was yarn related for my collection. And then other than that, I didn't buy any more yarn. So the sweaters quantity objective, I would say kind of half done, almost achieved with the 4 skeins. Hopefully I'll be able to make a sweater with that. And then for the summer fiber, for a tee, I couldn't find any summer fibers. I mean, in the UK, it doesn't get that warm, so I'm not that surprised that there's not lots of vendors that focus on summer yarns. But I really didn't find any cotton or linen. But I've been on the lookout for them, because I do want to do a summer tee this summer. My objective of non-superwash fibers was checked, because all the yarn I bought is non-superwash. And even though I saw lots of beautiful superwash fibers, I resisted the temptation because I have loads in my stash. Yarn in cones, I didn't find any yarn in cones. Perhaps I missed in the rush of the last 45 minutes. I missed some of the vendors, but I don't think they had any yarn in cones that I could find. And then 1 or 2 fun skeins. So I think that will be covered by this. I bought 1 fun skein. I think it's fun because the color is to me, is fun. It's not something I have in my wardrobe that much, but it's something I really like. So yeah, perhaps I'm gonna do a scarf with it, or because I don't know if I want to combine it with any other fibers, because this is so soft that I want to keep it really close to my neck. So yeah, perhaps another small scarf, which I love making. And for the buttons, I also promised I will bring these, so I brought my swatch for the color I'm planning to do. Is in the La Mana Milan, I can't remember which, but it's the mohair and the merino cashmere combo. So this is the color I'm planning to use, and I brought it with me, but I didn't find any suppliers that had buttons, or at least none that would work for these. So that one was not, I couldn't check that. Budget 20, and the budget £250. That was, I'm happy to report, achieved. Mission accomplished. I haven't done the complete math of what I bought, but I will put the number up there for you once I do the full math. And then for the honey amber yellowish brown, it was for this one. It's not really yellow, but it's like this ochre brown color by Knitting for Olive. For this one, it was not achieved. I didn't find anything I liked with this sort of color, so I will keep an eye for something to combine it with. I can always go back to Knitting for Olive and get the merino from the same colorway. So that one was not achieved. But a couple of other things I bought that weren't on my list, but I'm still super excited about. One was, there was a stationery vendor that had really cute greeting cards and notebooks for yarn related stuff. And I've been looking for a notebook like this that is a project planner to keep track of my projects. I've seen similar ones, but I didn't really like the format. But I really like the flexibility of the format that this one has. It has some abbreviation and helpful things for notation for knitters and crocheters. And for the actual projects, it has a little list of things that you can note, like the project, date, material, quantity, tools, size, swatch, and notes. And it has like a blank page of little dotted paper where you can draft or write anything you want. So I thought this was very useful, and I'm hoping that this will help keep my projects more organized, and so I can also remember to take notes, so then I can transfer them to Ravelry after. And then I mentioned earlier that I was able to see Dee Gilpin and Sheila, which are the creators of the Gansey Knitting Sourcebook. And it's this super beautiful sourcebook of stitch patterns that are on the Gansey style. And it is super beautiful, and I think it will be useful for me to start learning some interesting stitches, and good to have just as a resource in case I decide to continue on experimenting with designing my own stuff. I'm still far away from there because I'm just a beginner knitter, but I also like to be creative and experiment, so I think it will be really useful to have this in my library. And then last but not least, there was one of the vendors that was having little knitted animals, and I could not resist to get one of these cute little bears. I don't know if you'll be able to see it from there, but I will pop a closer picture of it there for you to see. It's adorable, and she had lots of little creatures. I can't remember what other animals she had, like bunnies, a tortoise to put your needles or your little stitch markers or something to keep them there. So they were super cute, and I could not resist. So that's all I got, but a couple of other highlights of the vendors I saw, even though I didn't get anything from there. One of my favorite stands was the visible mending stand. I thought it was such an interesting concept to just mend your garments in an intentional way to make the patch look like an artwork. So I'll pop pictures of what I'm talking about there. If you don't know, she was offering a workshop, which when I first saw, I should have researched more, because when I first saw it, I didn't know what it meant or what it was, but I think it would have been a super interesting workshop to attend. So I regretted not signing up for that workshop, but she did have a book, which I might look in the future. And she was offering little kits with tiny little cute skeins of, or hanks, tiny little ones of thread to do the mending with. Which I thought it was super interesting and super cool concept. So that is all I had to share with you today. I hope you found this video useful. In case you were interested about how the Woolly Good Gathering was, if you're planning to go in the future, or if you're intending to go to any other yarn festival, please let me know in the comments what other festivals are you planning to go. And if you went to the Woolly Good Gathering, which one was your favorite vendor? Please let me know in the comments. If you like this video, please like and consider subscribing to my video in case you want to hear more about my updates, and also in my next podcast if you want to hear all about my thoughts and experience knitting my Salty Day sweater. Keep an eye on it, and until next time, thanks for watching. Bye!